So welcome back to part 2 of my repertoire against first d4 based on the Petrov defense. And the first clip we saw a brief overview over the Steinitz attack, third d4, and now I would like to go a bit into the main lines and show you one, actually not really to show but more or less give you an extract of a game which one of the greatest or biggest front runners of the Petrov played. It's Vladimir Kramnik, whom I would advise you to follow if you're planning to study the Petrov defense. And in the first clip I already mentioned some advantages playing with Petrov. And one of the main advantages, and maybe this should be your main strategic guide, is that black on move 2 already threatens to equalize immediately. So white is always playing, so to say, for the tempo, which means he always needs to use his time wisely and precisely in order to fight for anything. Otherwise, black will just equalize, as we will see in the course of this clip here. Okay, 34, knight takes e4, our recipe. Most precise, bishop d3, d5, knight takes e5, knight d7 takes, and just going for our first line here with 8 move, knight c3. I mentioned the main lines here is 8 knight c3, c4, or queen h5. There's another line which I would like to show just due to because it's instructive, and it shows that any kind of tricks by white simply doesn't work, and black just equalizes. So those are really the most critical lines. For example, knight d2. White's intention is that once we take there, he gets his bishop developed, and in general I would say that even after knight takes d2, bishop takes d2, and something like castle, the only critical try is something like queen h5. This is really the only way white can try to hurt us. Now after something like f5, I think it's about equal. But we can also play castle with a nice tactical shot. Now you might just ask, wait a second, I'm just hanging e4. Yeah, we do, but with a certain concrete reason. If he takes and we take, so to say, give up the pawn, we have a nice tactical shot. Bishop takes h2. If the king takes, our queen comes to h4, hitting both the king and the bishop, and the position is equal. As simple as that. If instead of taking, one could of course argue, now our opponent b7 is still hanging, so what about king h1? Well, then we still go to h4 and suddenly launch I think almost decisive attack. I've never really calculated this line, but I think it's already decisive. Our threat is simply to go there, giving check. The king has to go to g1, and we made an h2. That's all. So for example, there, check, only move, and mate. So that's already quite serious. Therefore we go for knight c3. Here we take, so damage our opponent's structure, take, and castle. So if white does nothing, for example, if he just plays rook e1, we might just play c6, in order to control d5. And if now queen h5, we play maybe something like this, rook e8, bishop f8, bishop g7, going for the long diagonal, and later try to lose it up with c5, creating weaknesses. This queen h5 is the critical line, and this line was for a long time considered quite serious for black. But in recent times, now players found a reliable way to equalize with black. f5. Because the queen was threatening. Sorry, the program is doing what I want. Here, the threat is d5 and h7, so we protected f5. First of all, stopping the bishop going to h7 and the queen looking at d5. Now the rook b1, now putting the rook on the open file. We play b6, rook e1, c6, so that in case of c4, which sooner or later might come, we always have a pawn on d5. And if now c4, we just play queen f6 and equalize. Hitting d4. At the same time, sometimes playing queen g6 or just g6, and the other rook goes to e8 with equal play. Bishop g5 is thus the main line. Queen c7, c4, as I mentioned. And now a very, very strong idea, and an important one even. Bishop e8. The point is that sometimes we plan to take on c4, after which the opponent will check us, and we would love to exchange off this bishop, because our pawn f5 is limiting our bishop, and if we play g6, this bishop will be pretty bad, because the own pawns are limiting it. So that's our main plan. We play bishop e8, after something like queen h3, now hitting this pawn here. We play d takes c4, hitting the bishop. And now after something like, I don't know, if it takes an f5, we just play, yeah, probably h6. Otherwise, sorry, bishop takes c4 check, bishop f7. If he takes, we just get normal developments, not an issue. So bishop e6, with the idea, if we take, rook takes, here really is one tempo ahead to double up. But this doesn't help. We just go for rook a to e8. If he plays something like this, can we consider to take there? We play g6. Next move, queen d7, and then rook e8 probably. Something like this might be possible. Or we could even go immediately for queen d7, maybe looks even stronger. The idea is that now if white exchanges everything on e8, he cannot grab this pawn. Because takes, now the rook on e1 is hanging. If he takes, in order to get this pawn here, we use the fact that the king is well protected and mate him. That's maybe even stronger. So I'll go for queen d7, I think. Okay. Very well. Yeah, the other point being, if rook a to e8 and he plays queen b3, threatening a nasty double attack, you just take, queen takes, rook f7, queen e8 check, rook f8, and the best white can do actually in this position is just to go for this repetition. Of course, black could maybe try to go aside, but then maybe the rook might come. It might be unpleasant. So rook f7, queen 8, rook f8, as happened in the game Shirov against Kramnik and Cazorla 1998, where both players agreed to draw due to 3-fold repetition. So that's kind of an instructive way how black tries to play. First of all, he just develops naturally, then he stops all his opponent's threats, and then hits for simplifications, after which the position is just equal. If black manages to finish development and be able to simplify the position without making huge concessions, he will be equal. And that's my recipe for players who want to reach Elo 2000. Okay, so that's for the move 8, knight c3. And we will now move on to, let me see, we'll now move on to the next game, going for queen h5. Let me see if I can do this. Briefly check it. Queen h5 here. Okay. Well, okay, bishop d6, queen h5. Okay, queen h5 is kind of a bold reply, because white wants to take on d5, to which the knight will hang. And black has a very, very strong and kind of precise move to equalize. And it's maybe not the move which one would play immediately, but it's a very powerful move, queen f6. First of all, attacking d4 and not caring about d5. And if white takes, we play bishop c6, hitting the queen. The queen does not have many squares, the most natural and logical one being h5. We take d4, establish material equality, and next finish our development. Knight d2, castle, knight takes d4, bishop takes d4. We just simplify, bishop e3, queen d5, offering our queen's exchange, and after queen takes, bishop takes, the position is completely equal. Black did not have any real problems. So after queen f6, what about bishop e3, renewing the threat on d5 and covering d4? Well, now we have bishop f5 developing, f3, now important so-called Zwischenzug, g6, with the idea that queen h6, because the queen doesn't have any real squares, I mean she cannot go to g5 due to the knight, she cannot go to g4 due to the bishop, cannot go to h4 due to the queen, and cannot go to h3 due to the bishop on f5. So queen h6 is forced, after which bishop f8, queen f4, otherwise queen is lost. Bishop d6, queen h6, bishop f8, queen f4. In the game Irodescu against Lander in Reggio Emilia 2006, the game was drawn. White was unable to make any progress and the position was agreed drawn due to a repetition of moves. So also very, very solid, as you can see. This after the most obvious plans leading just to a draw, players started to look for other lines, and knight c3 came up. Queen takes d4, certainly threatening to take on c3, winning another pawn. If now queen takes d5, we just play knight c5. c7 is protected, we hit the bishop equal. Knight takes d5 is more interesting, to which bishop c6 comes, knight e3. Now very important, g6. and after queen h3 we just cancel. Knight g5 was tried by Kramnik against Deep Fritz in Bonn 2006, but I would recommend you to play castle, after which, for example, knight c4, knight c5, bishop e3 hitting the queen, queen f6, knight takes d6, and very important, knight takes d3 in order to neutralize the bishop pair. He grabs a pawn, we do so as well, knight a5, and bishop e4. Hitting with this pawn. Next, coming with something like queen a6, knight c4, going for this bishop with an equal position. The main line is there for bishop e3, first hitting the queen after she moves, offering a queen's exchange, takes, knight takes d5, very strong knight f6, rook a to e1, no, going for tactical, sorry, not there, going for tactical stuff, we take, and bishop d4, we just cancel along, bishop takes e5, knight b4, hitting those two pawns and the bishop, after bishop c4, knight takes c2, rook e2, very strong intermediate move and precise move, f6, so that if he takes there, he takes this guy and remain a pawn up. Therefore bishop c3 is forced, and bishop f5, protecting the knight and going for knight d4, maybe even knight c6, knight there, and from c6 he controls square e7. As in the correspondence game Wunderlich against Turgut 2007. It's also very precise play, and I recommend you to replay this, to repeat this clip, so you really memorize and know this line by heart, because it's very important, otherwise you can easily end up in a very worse position. And I think with this lines you are on the right side. Yeah, so that's task 2, my part 2 clip here. And as you can see, d4 is quite challenging in certain ways, but with the right theoretical preparation you should be able to hold positions even against the strongest opposition, as players such as Kramnik or Gelfand do all the time. Okay, thanks for watching.